Egypt gave to the world the light of knowledge, and the world has yet to outgrow the wisdom of the Egyptians. Manly P. Hall, philosopher and mystic. Imagine standing before the Great Sphinx as dawn breaks over the desert, golden light illuminating ancient stone carved by hands that understood cosmic mysteries we still struggle to comprehend. The air whispers with secrets passed down through millennia, encoded in texts that modern spiritualists now recognize as the foundation of Western esoteric tradition. At the heart of this wisdom lies the Corpus Hermeticum, a collection of mystical treatises attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great one, embodying the fusion of Egyptian god Thoth with Greek Hermes. These writings, composed in Alexandria between the 1st and 3rd centuries of the Common Era, capture the essence of Egyptian spiritual knowledge transformed through Greek philosophical thought. The Corpus Hermeticum fascinates both through its profound content and its remarkable journey through history. These texts survived the burning of the Library of Alexandria, centuries of suppression, and nearly disappeared before their rediscovery during the Renaissance sparked a spiritual revolution across Europe. Yet the corpus represents merely one facet of Egyptian spiritual wisdom. The Book of the Dead, properly called the Book of Coming Forth by Day, preserved in specimens like the Papyrus of Ani, reveals elaborate rituals guiding the soul through afterlife journeys. The magical tales of the Westcar Papyrus showcase the Egyptian belief in divine intervention and supernatural transformation. The Emerald Tablet, though of later origin, distills Hermetic principles into cryptic verses that continue to inspire spiritual seekers today. Together, these texts form a spiritual technology designed to elevate human consciousness toward divine understanding. They represent a sophisticated system of knowledge that modern spiritualists increasingly recognize as remarkably aligned with quantum physics, consciousness studies, and psychological transformation. What makes Egyptian wisdom particularly relevant today? Beyond academic curiosity, these ancient teachings offer practical methods for spiritual development that resonate with contemporary seekers. The Hermetic axiom, "as above, so below," underpins modern manifestation practices. Egyptian understanding of the soul's components mirrors current psychological models of consciousness. Tonight, we journey into the heart of Egyptian mystical wisdom, exploring how these ancient teachings transformed human spirituality and continue to offer profound insights for those seeking higher consciousness today. What secrets did the ancient Egyptian priests encode in their sacred texts? How might these teachings transform your spiritual practice today? The story of Egyptian spiritual wisdom reaching the modern world begins in Alexandria, a magnificent crossroads of civilizations founded by Alexander the Great in 332 before the Common Era. This coastal metropolis grew into the intellectual capital of the ancient world, housing the legendary Library of Alexandria, with its hundreds of thousands of scrolls from across the known world. Alexandria created the perfect alchemical vessel for the transformation of Egyptian wisdom. Here, Greek philosophers encountered Egyptian priests. Babylonian astrologers exchanged ideas with Jewish mystics. The city buzzed with intellectual energy as diverse traditions cross-pollinated, creating entirely new spiritual syntheses. From this cultural crucible emerged the figure of Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice greatest Hermes, a syncretic deity combining the Egyptian god Thoth, master of writing, magic, and wisdom, with the Greek messenger god Hermes. Though historically a mythological rather than historical figure, Hermes Trismegistus became revered as the fountainhead of a profound spiritual tradition. The Corpus Hermeticum emerged from this Alexandrian melting pot between the 1st and 3rd centuries of the Common Era. Written in Greek but preserving Egyptian spiritual concepts, These 17 treatises explore the nature of divinity, cosmos, mind, and spiritual transformation. The opening text, known as the Poimandres, or Shepherd of Men, describes a visionary experience revealing the creation of the universe and humanity's divine nature. Egyptian spiritual wisdom flows through these texts like an underground river. The Corpus Hermeticum speaks of divine consciousness permeating all creation, echoing the Egyptian concept of Neter, divine principle manifesting through natural forces. Its cosmology mirrors the Egyptian understanding of creation emerging from Nun, the primordial waters. Its emphasis on spiritual rebirth reflects Egyptian funerary practices aimed at transformation. The Papyrus of Ani, created around 1250 before the Common Era, offers a window into these earlier Egyptian concepts. This exquisite Book of the Dead contains spells, prayers, and instructions guiding the deceased through the afterlife. One famous scene depicts the weighing of the heart ceremony, where the deceased's heart balances against the feather of Mayat, truth and cosmic order, a powerful metaphor for spiritual alignment that influenced Hermetic teachings. The Westcar Papyrus, dating to Egypt's Middle Kingdom around 2000 to 1700 before the Common Era, preserves magical tales from even earlier periods. Its stories of wonder-working priests and divine births reveal how Egyptians understood magic, Heka, as a fundamental cosmic force that adepts could harness through ritual knowledge. This concept of divine power accessible through specific practices became central to Hermetic teachings. The Emerald Tablet, though likely composed later than the Corpus Hermeticum, distills Hermetic wisdom into cryptic verses. Its famous axiom, as above, so below, encapsulates the Egyptian understanding of correspondence between cosmic and earthly realms, a principle visible in everything from pyramid alignments with celestial bodies to temple designs mirroring divine proportions. What makes these texts extraordinary transcends their historical significance. They preserve a sophisticated spiritual technology, methods for awakening divine consciousness within the human mind. While mainstream history often portrays ancient Egypt through its monumental architecture and elaborate mythology, these texts reveal something far more profound: a comprehensive system for spiritual transformation. How did this ancient wisdom survive centuries of suppression to reach us today? The answer lies in a remarkable journey through secret societies, hidden manuscripts, and persistent seekers unwilling to let this light extinguish. The Corpus Hermeticum presents a cosmology both profound and revolutionary, a vision of reality that transformed Western spirituality and continues to resonate with modern seekers. At its core lies a radical proposition: the universe exists as a living manifestation of divine mind, and humans possess the capacity to know this divine reality directly. The Poimandres, first treatise of the Corpus, describes creation through a visionary experience. The narrator encounters a vast divine intelligence who reveals that light is I, mind, the first God, who existed before the watery substance which appeared out of darkness. This divine mind generates the cosmos through thought alone, creating through consciousness rather than physical labor. This creation account differs dramatically from literal interpretations of Genesis. Instead of a deity fashioning the world from outside, the Hermetic God creates through emanation, divine consciousness flowing outward in successive waves, each denser than the last. The physical world emerges as the outermost expression of this divine thought. The Egyptian roots of this cosmology appear throughout the Papyrus of Ani. In Egyptian creation accounts, the primordial god Atum emerges from Nun, cosmic waters, and creates through thought and speech. The concept of divine words possessing creative power permeates Egyptian texts. The Westcar Papyrus illustrates this through tales of priest-magicians who manipulate reality through precisely spoken formulas, demonstrating the Egyptian belief that properly articulated words tap into the same creative power that formed the universe. The Emerald Tablet reinforces this cosmology with its famous axiom: that which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. This principle of correspondence, that patterns repeat across different scales of existence, reflects the Egyptian understanding of reality as interconnected and hierarchically ordered. This cosmology carries profound implications for human spirituality. If the universe emerges from divine mind, then human consciousness shares the same essential nature. The Corpus Hermeticum states, "The mind of God is the origin of all. The human mind, made in His image, possesses divine creative power." This teaching suggests humans can participate in creation through properly directed consciousness, a principle underlying modern manifestation practices and creative visualization. The Papyrus of Ani reinforces this view through its portrayal of the deceased becoming an Osiris, achieving divine status through proper knowledge and ritual. The Egyptian concept of the Ba, the soul's animated aspect, and the Ka, its vital essence, suggests consciousness exists independently of physical form, a view echoed in Hermetic teachings about the divine nature of mind. For modern spiritualists, these ancient teachings resonate with quantum physics and consciousness studies. The Hermetic view of reality as fundamentally mental aligns with quantum observations that consciousness affects physical reality. The Egyptian understanding of words as creative forces parallels research into intention and manifestation. Most importantly, this cosmology offers a path to spiritual awakening. By recognizing our minds as extensions of divine mind, we gain access to profound creative power. Through contemplation and spiritual practice, we can ascend through levels of consciousness to experience direct knowledge of divinity, the ultimate goal of Hermetic practice. What cosmic mysteries might we unlock by applying these ancient principles today? How might recognizing the divine nature of consciousness transform your relationship with reality? The Corpus Hermeticum presents a radical vision of human potential. Through direct knowledge of the divine, called gnosis, humans can transform their consciousness and ultimately achieve spiritual liberation. This path of transformation stands as perhaps the most significant contribution of Egyptian wisdom to modern spirituality. The fourth treatise of the Corpus Hermeticum declares, "He who knows himself knows the all." This profound statement encapsulates the Hermetic path to enlightenment. By turning consciousness inward through contemplation, the seeker discovers that human awareness mirrors divine awareness. This self-knowledge transcends intellectual understanding, representing direct experiential knowledge of one's divine nature. This concept of spiritual transformation through knowledge has deep Egyptian roots. The Papyrus of Ani contains numerous spells, enabling the deceased to transform into various divine forms. Spell 77 allows transformation into a golden falcon. "I have risen as a mighty golden falcon. I shall see the gods and fly to the horizon." Setulf. This transformation symbolizes the soul's ability to transcend limitations and achieve divine status through proper knowledge. The Hermetic path of transformation involves several key stages. First comes recognition of one's divine nature, often triggered by disillusionment with material existence. The Corpus Hermeticum describes humanity as drunk with ignorance, needing to awaken from material attachment. This awakening initiates a process of purification, eliminating thoughts and behaviors that bind consciousness to lower realms. The Emerald Tablet describes this purification process cryptically. Separate the earth from fire, the subtle from the gross, gently and with great ingenuity. This alchemical language describes the separation of higher consciousness from lower drives, a process requiring both gentleness and skillful technique. The Egyptian Book of the Dead parallels this with its negative confession, where the deceased declares freedom from various impurities before the divine tribunal. Through purification, the seeker prepares for direct divine encounter. The Poemandres describes this experience as an ascent through planetary spheres, each requiring specific knowledge to transcend. At the journey's culmination comes union with divine mind, described as entering the eighth sphere, where individual consciousness merges with universal consciousness. The Papyrus of Ani depicts a similar journey through the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, where the deceased navigates challenges using specific knowledge before achieving divine status. Both traditions emphasize that proper preparation and knowledge determine success in spiritual transformation. For modern spiritualists, these ancient transformation techniques offer practical wisdom. The Hermetic emphasis on meditation and contemplation parallels mindfulness practices. Egyptian visualization techniques resemble modern creative visualization. Both traditions recognize that consciousness creates reality, and transforming consciousness transforms experience. Perhaps most revolutionary for contemporary seekers, these ancient texts suggest that divinity resides within human consciousness, accessible through proper technique rather than external authority. This empowering message resonates with those seeking direct spiritual experience beyond dogmatic structures. Have you ever experienced moments of expanded awareness that transcend ordinary consciousness? What ancient Egyptian spiritual practices might deepen your connection to higher dimensions of reality? The ancient Egyptians viewed magic, Heka, not as superstition, but as a fundamental cosmic force, the same power through which the gods created and maintained the universe. This sophisticated understanding of magical practice permeates both the Corpus Hermeticum and earlier Egyptian texts, offering modern spiritualists profound insights into consciousness and manifestation. The Asclepius, a Hermetic text preserved in Latin, describes Egyptian priests animating statues with divine presence. Our ancestors discovered the art of making gods. They drew spirits into the statues, spirits with the power to do good and harm, and infused them into idols through divine mysteries. This remarkable passage reveals the Hermetic understanding of magic as the art of channeling divine forces through physical objects and ritual actions. This magical worldview has deep Egyptian roots. The Westcar Papyrus contains a striking tale of the magician Jajamank, who parts a lake to retrieve a lost jewel. He spoke words of power, and the waters of one side of the lake climbed upon the other, revealing the jewel lying upon dry ground. This demonstration of magical power through precisely spoken words illustrates the Egyptian belief that properly formulated speech could command natural forces. The Egyptian concept of Heka encompassed several key principles that influenced Hermetic magic. First, the power of words and names. Knowing the true name of a thing granted power over it. Second, the law of similarity. Representations could affect their counterparts through sympathetic connection. Third, the importance of ritual timing aligned with cosmic cycles. Fourth, the necessity of purity and proper preparation of the practitioner. These principles appear throughout the Corpus Hermeticum, though often in more philosophical form. The Hermetic texts emphasize that magical power flows from alignment with divine mind. The practitioner who achieves gnosis, direct knowledge of the divine, gains access to the same creative power through which the cosmos manifests. The Emerald Tablet cryptically describes this process. Its power is integrating if it be turned into earth. See This suggests that divine power becomes effective in the material world when properly channeled through a prepared vessel, whether object or practitioner. The Egyptian magical tradition similarly emphasized the preparation of talismans, amulets, and the magician themselves as conduits for cosmic forces. For modern spiritualists, these ancient magical practices offer profound wisdom about consciousness and manifestation. The Egyptian understanding of words as creative forces parallels contemporary research into affirmations and the power of language to shape reality. The Hermetic emphasis on aligning individual consciousness with divine mind resembles modern teachings about raising vibrational frequency to manifest desired outcomes. Perhaps most significantly, both traditions recognize that effective magic requires inner transformation. The Corpus Hermeticum warns against magical practice without spiritual development. Knowledge without virtue is like a sword in the hands of a madman. Egyptian texts similarly emphasize that the magician must embody Ma'at, cosmic truth and order, to wield Heka effectively. This integration of spiritual development with magical practice distinguishes the Egyptian tradition from superficial approaches to manifestation. True magical power flows from alignment with divine principles, not merely from technique. As the Corpus Hermeticum states, the greatest magic of all is to know the divine. The practical applications of these ancient magical principles remain relevant today. Egyptian visualization techniques for manifestation, Hermetic meditation practices for accessing higher consciousness, and ritual methods for aligning with cosmic cycles all offer powerful tools for modern spiritual practitioners seeking to participate consciously in creation. What ancient Egyptian magical principles might enhance your spiritual practice? How might understanding Heka transform your approach to manifestation and conscious creation? The symbolic language of ancient Egypt provides a sophisticated system for understanding cosmic forces and psychological principles. Through their gods and sacred symbols, Egyptians encoded profound spiritual wisdom that continues to resonate with modern seekers. At the heart of Egyptian symbolism stands Thoth, god of wisdom, writing, and magic, who later merged with Greek Hermes to become Hermes Trismegistus. Depicted with an ibis head, Thoth represents divine intelligence articulated through language. As divine scribe, he records the judgment of souls in the papyrus of Ani, symbolizing how our actions inscribe themselves in the fabric of reality. The Corpus Hermeticum, though written in Greek philosophical language, preserves this Egyptian symbolic wisdom. Its description of divine mind creating through thought mirrors, Thoth creating through hieroglyphs, each symbol manifesting the reality it represents. This understanding of symbols as containers of creative power underlies both Egyptian hieroglyphs and Hermetic talismanic magic. The Ankh, Egyptian symbol of eternal life, appears throughout temple art and the papyrus of Ani. This cross with a loop represents the union of masculine and feminine principles generating life force. The Corpus Hermeticum echoes this symbolic understanding, describing creation as the union of divine polarities. Modern spiritualists recognize the Ankh as representing the circulation of vital energy necessary for spiritual awakening. The feather of Ma'at symbolizes truth, justice, and cosmic order in Egyptian tradition. In the papyrus of Ani, this feather weighs against the heart of the deceased, determining their spiritual fate. This powerful image conveys that alignment with cosmic truth determines spiritual evolution. The Corpus Hermeticum expresses this same principle philosophically. The human soul is punished by its own nature when misaligned with divine order. Egyptian deities themselves function as complex symbols of cosmic principles. Osiris represents death and regeneration, the cyclical nature of existence. Isis embodies receptive wisdom that resurrects the fragmented divine. Horus symbolizes the awakened consciousness born from the union of opposites. These divine figures appear transformed but recognizable in Hermetic texts, representing stages in spiritual awakening. The Emerald Tablet preserves Egyptian symbolic wisdom in its cryptic verses. Its opening lines, "true without falsehood, certain and most true," echo the Egyptian concept of Ma'at. Its description of cosmic forces moving from earth to heaven and back to earth mirrors the Egyptian understanding of cycles depicted in temple art and funerary texts. For modern spiritualists, these ancient symbols offer powerful tools for psychological and spiritual development. The Egyptian gods represent archetypal forces within consciousness that can be awakened through contemplation and ritual. Sacred symbols like the Ankh and Djed pillar serve as focal points for meditation, activating corresponding energies within the practitioner. The Hermetic tradition preserved these Egyptian symbolic teachings while translating them into philosophical language accessible to Greek and later European minds. This translation allowed Egyptian wisdom to survive the extinction of its original religious context and continue evolving through Western esoteric traditions. Today, we can recognize Egyptian symbols in unexpected places. The caduceus in medical symbols, the Eye of Horus in protective amulets, pyramid shapes in energy work, and Ankh crosses in spiritual jewelry. These symbols endure because they speak to something fundamental in human consciousness, connecting us to the same divine principles recognized by ancient Egyptian priests. By understanding the symbolic language of ancient Egypt, modern spiritualists gain access to a sophisticated system for mapping consciousness and cosmic forces. These symbols serve not merely as historical artifacts, but as living keys to spiritual transformation. What Egyptian symbols resonate most strongly with your spiritual path? How might incorporating these ancient symbolic teachings deepen your connection to universal wisdom? The wisdom of ancient Egypt, preserved through the Corpus Hermeticum and related texts, has shaped Western spirituality in profound and often unrecognized ways. This ancient knowledge continues to offer transformative insights for contemporary seekers navigating an increasingly complex world. During the Renaissance, the rediscovery of the Corpus Hermeticum by European scholars sparked a spiritual revolution. Translated from Greek to Latin in 1463 by Marsilio Ficino under the patronage of Cosimo de' Medici, these texts challenged medieval religious dogma by suggesting humans could access divine wisdom directly through contemplation, rather than solely through church authority. This Hermetic revival influenced figures like Giordano Bruno, who expanded on Egyptian cosmic principles, and John Dee, who developed practical applications of Hermetic mathematics and angel magic. The symbolic language of Egyptian wisdom permeated Renaissance art, architecture, and scientific thought, establishing a foundation for Western esoteric traditions that continues today. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, founded in 1888, revived Egyptian magical practices for the modern era, incorporating symbolism from the Papyrus of Ani and Hermetic principles into its initiatory system. Through this influential order, Egyptian concepts of transformation influenced modern psychology, particularly through members like W.B. Yeats and Dion Fortune. Carl Jung recognized the psychological significance of Egyptian symbols, interpreting gods like Osiris and Isis as archetypes within the collective unconscious. His concept of individuation parallels the Hermetic path of spiritual transformation, described in the Corpus Hermeticum, suggesting ancient Egyptians understood psychological integration millennia before modern psychology. Today, Egyptian wisdom continues to influence contemporary spirituality in several key areas. First, the law of attraction and manifestation practices draw directly from Hermetic principles. The famous Hermetic axiom, "as above, so below," underpins modern understanding that consciousness shapes reality. Visualization techniques taught in best-selling books like The Secret echo Egyptian magical practices described in the Westcar Papyrus. Second, modern mindfulness and meditation practices parallel Hermetic contemplation techniques. The Hermetic path begins with stilling the mind to access higher consciousness, a practice increasingly validated by neuroscience research showing meditation physically transforms brain structure. Third, energy healing modalities incorporate Egyptian concepts of vital force. The Ka, Egyptian concept of life energy, resembles the Eastern concept of Chi or prana. Modern energy healers often unconsciously employ principles described in Egyptian medical papyri and Hermetic texts about channeling cosmic forces for healing. Fourth, contemporary interest in sacred geometry draws from Egyptian architectural principles. Pyramid energetics, golden ratio proportions, and sacred measurements all originate in Egyptian temple design, preserved through Hermetic mathematical teachings that influenced sacred architecture worldwide. For individual seekers, ancient Egyptian wisdom offers several practical applications. The Hermetic emphasis on direct knowledge through contemplation provides a path to spiritual autonomy, encouraging seekers to verify truth through personal experience rather than external authority. Egyptian understanding of death as transformation offers profound wisdom for navigating life transitions, viewing endings as opportunities for rebirth rather than final conclusions. The Egyptian magical worldview, seeing reality as responsive to consciousness, empowers individuals to participate consciously in creating their experience rather than feeling victimized by circumstances. Egyptian symbolic language provides tools for psychological integration, with gods and symbols representing aspects of consciousness that can be harmonized through contemplation and ritual. As we face unprecedented global challenges, the wisdom of ancient Egypt reminds us that civilizations have faced existential crises before and transmitted their knowledge forward. The very survival of these texts through millennia of suppression and neglect testifies to their enduring value. How might incorporating ancient Egyptian wisdom enhance your spiritual practice? Which Hermetic principles could transform your approach to consciousness and reality? The journey through Egyptian spiritual wisdom reveals a sophisticated tradition that transcends time, offering modern seekers practical methods for spiritual transformation. From the cosmological vision of the Corpus Hermeticum to the magical practices of the Westcar Papyrus, from the afterlife journey in the Papyrus of Ani to the alchemical formulas of the Emerald Tablet, these ancient teachings provide a comprehensive system for awakening divine consciousness. The core message emerging from these texts speaks directly to our contemporary spiritual hunger. Divinity resides within human consciousness, accessible through proper knowledge and practice. This radical proposition challenges both religious dogma that places divinity exclusively outside humanity and materialist philosophy that denies spiritual dimensions altogether. The Hermetic axiom, "as above, so below," reminds us that cosmic patterns repeat at every level of existence, from atoms to galaxies. This principle of correspondence suggests that by understanding ourselves, we gain insight into universal processes. Conversely, by studying cosmic patterns, we better comprehend our inner nature. This holographic view of reality aligns remarkably with cutting-edge physics and systems theory. The Egyptian understanding of Heka, divine creative power accessible through proper knowledge, offers a sophisticated framework for conscious manifestation. Unlike simplistic approaches to the law of attraction, the Egyptian tradition emphasizes that effective creation requires alignment with Mayat, cosmic truth, and harmony. This ethical dimension ensures that magical practice serves spiritual evolution rather than merely ego gratification. Perhaps most significantly for modern seekers, the Egyptian tradition presents transformation as a natural process rather than supernatural intervention. Through knowledge, purification, and practice, anyone can awaken to their divine nature. This democratic spirituality empowers individuals to take responsibility for their evolution rather than depending on external saviors or authorities. The survival of Egyptian wisdom through the Corpus Hermeticum and related texts demonstrates the resilience of truth. Despite the burning of the Library of Alexandria, despite centuries of suppression by dogmatic religious authorities, despite academic dismissal of esoteric knowledge, these teachings endured. They speak to something fundamental in human consciousness that recognizes truth beyond cultural conditioning. For those drawn to explore these ancient teachings further, several pathways offer themselves. Study the primary texts directly. Modern translations of the Corpus Hermeticum by Brian Copenhaver, the Book of the Dead by Raymond Faulkner, and collections of Egyptian magical texts provide direct access to this wisdom tradition. Practice Hermetic meditation techniques, focusing attention inward to discover the divine spark within consciousness. Begin with simple breathing practices while contemplating Hermetic principles like all is mind or as above, so below. Seek to explore Egyptian symbolism through art, visualization, and dream work. Ancient symbols like the Ankh, Jed pillar, and Eye of Horus can activate corresponding energies within consciousness when contemplated with focused attention. Apply Hermetic principles to daily life, recognizing opportunities to align individual will with cosmic principles. Practice seeing challenges as initiatory experiences designed to awaken higher awareness. Connect with others studying this tradition. While Egyptian mystery teachings were once highly secretive, today communities of practitioners share insights and experiences, accelerating spiritual development through collective wisdom. The wisdom of ancient Egypt reminds us that we stand in a long lineage of seekers who have mapped the territory of consciousness and cosmic law. Their insights, preserved through texts like the Corpus Hermeticum, offer not only historical interest, but practical guidance for navigating our individual and collective evolution. What ancient Egyptian wisdom will you incorporate into your spiritual practice? How might these timeless teachings transform your understanding of consciousness and reality? The light of Egypt continues to illuminate the path of spiritual awakening for those with eyes to see and hearts to understand. The question remains not whether these ancient teachings contain profound truth, but whether we have the wisdom to apply them in creating a more conscious world.